Hey, what's up everyone? Thunder Bob here, and tonight I am doing a brief review for a new VR headset. So basically, for as long as I can remember, I have been curious and interested in virtual reality. I can remember visiting Epcot in the mid-90s, and they had this virtual reality setup, and begging my parents and trying it out, and being kind of disappointed. I mean, it was amazing, but at the same time, it was such a limited experience. There were other examples of games that had virtual reality elements, like Heavy Rain had this really cool moment where the detective has these glasses he puts on, and he enters a virtual space, and he interacts with his case files in kind of like a virtual detective's office. And I thought this concept was just really amazing, like just a pair of glasses you put on and you're in a virtual environment. And virtual reality, I feel like it has come a long way over time. The Vive came out in 2016 or something, and I picked one of those out basically at release. And over time, I got the wireless adapter and the index controllers, but it's never quite reached this point where you literally just pick up, the glasses or the goggles, you put them on, and you're in virtual reality. And the Quest, I think, is the closest we've come to that. For an experience where you simply pick up the headset, you put it on, you're in VR in seconds. There's no other hardware needed. I think that's a really cool concept. So we're going to look at the Quest today and how it works standalone, how it works with hooking up to a computer through AirLink, and comparing it to a Vive with a wireless adapter and index controllers, which I've been using for the last couple of years. I realize it's not brand new, it's new to me. It's been out for 8 months or something. But I've got a new VR headset, and I'm pretty impressed with it, and I wanted to share some information on it. So I bought an Oculus Quest 2. I have been a Vive user for a very long time. I've been part of that ecosystem for a huge amount of time. In fact, here's my original Vive wireless adapter. They just announced the Vive Pro 2, and I was very close to pre-ordering one, which would mean it would have been coming in probably this week. And then I read the fine print that using the wireless adapter, which I've been using for years now, would limit the resolution at release to 1224 by 1224, which is barely higher than this thing. I've been using wireless for 2 years, I think, and I can't go back. So I was looking at different options, and I saw the Quest 2. I'd been thinking about it for a while, actually. They added AirLink, added 120 hertz. You've also got the standalone games you can play on it. So I went ahead and purchased myself one of these bad boys. So this is going to be a review from the standpoint of someone who has had a Vive along with the wireless adapter and also with the index controllers for 2 years almost, and compare it against the Oculus out of the box, and look at the ups and downs of each one and the options. So first off, I have to say the immediate experience with the Quest 2 is miles ahead of the Vive. The Vive requires setting up lighthouses, it requires link boxes, wires, software, and then you have to hope that everything plays nice. And even for an experienced user, that can be an hour or more setup time. And even longer if you're trying to configure the wireless adapter. There's so many moving pieces when you're talking about the Vive between, Steam VR, the wireless adapter software, the headset, the link boxes, all these things have to communicate. And even with it all set up, when I turn on my VR, sometimes it's 15 minutes before I can play a game. And that's not a fun experience. On the other hand, with the Quest 2, you literally just open the box, you pull this headset out, you turn it on, you pull the tabs on the controllers, everything already has a charge, already has batteries. You put on the headset and you're in virtual reality within 60 seconds. It was amazing. Compared to the original Vive setup, it's like a whole new world. And you put this headset on, and within a couple of minutes you're set up, you're drawing your your Guardian, you're playing some VR experiences, and this thing doesn't even need a computer. There are a ton of cool, comparable experiences that will run on the Quest 2 without a computer at all. I find that pretty amazing. So beyond the initial setup and just how much of a better experience it is, visuals are quite an upgrade from the original Vive that I was using. The built-in experience is clearly more limited by the processing power, but the higher resolution of the panel helps with the clarity of the image. With a wired connection from the PC, image quality is far beyond the original Vive, and even when connected over AirLink, my preferred method, the image quality is still very high, and I would say is better than the Vive by far. I may be an outlier in that I have a very high-end PC connected, wired to a rather powerful router, and my experience with AirLink has been quite positive with very few hiccups. There's a small amount of performance overhead when you're using AirLink, just like with the wireless Vive. There's some form of compression happening, but even the most advanced games like Half-Life Alyx is able to run at native resolution. That's 2500 by 2500 per eye, because it's got to overscan a little bit for the way it distorts the image to put it into the headset. So it's running at 2500 by 2500 per eye at 90 frames per second, and I did not have any issues. I didn't really experience any artifacts, no obvious compression of the image. It looks very sharp and crisp. No noticeable screen door effect because of the higher resolution. Now, I know not everyone has this experience. There have been a lot of mixed results here, and I think it has a lot to do with the hardware on the computer, the network. Are you wired? How close are you to your router? There are a lot of factors that go into that. But my experience has been quite good. I'd say the quality is very comparable to the Vive wireless from what I've seen. The biggest improvement with the Quest 2, I feel like, is definitely the resolution increase. It does get rid of the screen door effect, and in particular, it helps when you're reading text. Like I can remember on my Vive, you use this book in Saints and Sinners for the interface and for like the map and for your inventory, and this is just barely legible on the Vive with the wireless adapter. But here on the Quest 2, the text is very clear, it doesn't give me a headache, and it's a much better experience. The only real negative I can give as far as the graphics go, this is an LCD panel versus OLED, and the dark areas, the dark levels are not as good on this headset. In particular, it was very pronounced in Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. There's some very, very dark areas in some of those levels, and it felt like a downgrade in that game in particular. The bright areas look quite good, but in particular, if you're in a very dark area, it's worse than, I would say, some of the older headsets that use those better panels. Now, I was concerned with the wireless that there might be some latency or some connection issues, especially in faster-paced games. But I played Beat Saber, and I'm not very good at this game. I've only played it a bit. I used to be really good at Audio Shield, which is kind of a similar game. I was actually probably top 10 in the world at one point, even though, I don't think that many people actually played the game, so that's not saying that much. But I was very good at that, and that translates pretty well to Beat Saber. So here's some video of me playing Beat Saber on PCVR, transferring the image with AirLink, and also running it natively on the Quest 2. And to be honest, the tracking is pretty indistinguishable. There's maybe a very imperceptible lag using AirLink, but as you can see, I'm playing Beat Saber without too much issue. And I've heard from some really good players that it really doesn't cause much of a problem. Another nice thing with the AirLink is actually the way my house is set up. I have a pretty sizable house. I've got about a 3,000 square foot house over 2 stories. My router is pretty centrally located, and I can actually connect through AirLink in multiple rooms. I've tested it in my loft right here. This is where I do most of my gaming. I've tested it downstairs in our living room. I even was able to do it outside on my back patio, though the controllers didn't want to track right because of sunlight. But if I could catch it at the right time of day, I might even be able to use like a pretty large area in my backyard, even for PC VR, which I wasn't expecting. I was unsure what I would think about the Oculus controllers, the touch controllers. I've gone through the Vive wands, gone to the Index controller, which I really like, and now I've got the Quest controller. Personally, I can't use the wands any longer. The lack of a stick, just I can't get over that, and they're also kind of large and unwieldy. Personally, I think it's a toss-up between the Index and the touch controller. I like both of them. I think for certain games, one might be better than the other. Like Half-Life Alyx clearly is best controlled with the Index controllers. I've played it with both for a good chunk of the game, and it's definitely playable with the touch controller, but I think it was designed around the Index controllers and being able to, you know, open and close your hand. You know, that is very important to the way the game works. With the touch controllers, it's a little harder to, you know, to do that. You can't, like, when you're throwing things in the game, you sometimes want to like drop the controller. But there are things I like better about the touch controller. You know, in a lot of games I've found, like in Saints and Sinners, the way this works, you know, you've got this capacitive sensor here, and oftentimes my hand would maybe tighten a little too much or loosen, and I picked up things or dropped things by mistake, and that's kind of frustrating. I also think that the placement of the buttons is better on the touch controller. The Index controller, the default way my hand sets is to put the thumb basically on that little thumb pad, which I think is a useless button. And it's kind of awkward either to touch the stick or the buttons, which you use 90% of the time. I think I've used that touchpad, you know, in a handful of games, but I use the stick and the buttons frequently. And I think the controller would be better without this touchpad. You know, I think the Index or the touch controllers are actually better. Like my hand just naturally, the thumb falls in the right position for all of the major buttons. So that's one thing to think about. Now, overall, this is going to depend on your hand size. If you got a large or a small hand, all that comes into play. But I think the touch controllers are a comparable experience, and you can't go wrong with either of these controllers. So I can't really, you know, they're both pretty comparable. Another thing, I've been told that the built-in speakers were not very good on the Quest 2, and I was expecting to have to use a headset, but I actually really like the audio that this thing's putting out. I also feel that by not having something covering your ears, it's actually a bit more immersive. Like it makes me feel like I'm not in a game as much. It also helps prevent overheating. Some of my headsets are rather warm, and by not having to wear anything, it leaves my ears open, and I don't get as hot as quickly. The microphone also is quite clear. I'll do some audio here just to show that off. I am testing the quality of the built-in microphone. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. I think the audio of the built-in microphone is quite good. I've done a full video for Forever Bowl if you want to see how that is in a longer video. And now into the software. There are things that I like and things I hate about the Oculus software. First off, the setup's extremely easy, like I mentioned. Switching between room scale and stationary is quick and seamless. Creating guardians by physically drawing in your space is really clever and a quick solution. In the Quest interface, the built-in tools like the web browser, store, app, sharing, videos, all that stuff works really great, and seems in some cases better developed than like Viveport or Steam VR out of the box. What I don't like though is when you use AirLink, you end up with multiple layers of software. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm using AirLink and I'm playing Half-Life Alyx. So I've got Half-Life Alyx running, at the top level. And in order for Half-Life Alyx to run, I've got Steam VR running, below it. And for Steam VR to run, it's running through the Oculus software. And then underneath all this is the Quest software. So you got like 4 layers, and in some cases, like Steam VR has the home area, and Oculus has their home area. And I feel like you're getting a lot of performance overhead because you're using multiple different programs at once. I wish there was a better solution for that. If nothing else, I wish there was a unified software for Oculus and Quest. I don't know why some things are available in one and not the other. It just seems like a weird distinction. They should kind of unify those, I think, more directly. I actually found it easier to add all my games, including Steam and homebrew games, directly to the Oculus game list, rather than try to launch them from Steam. It puts all my games in one location. I find that really useful. There's definitely more knowledge required to get the AirLink working than using the built-in Quest games. Even things like changing the resolution is hidden in an out-of-the-way location. If you want to disable something like AWS, it requires you to run this hidden tool in the Oculus installation folder. Settings you change in this screen reset when you reset the panel. The headset. Why don't they stick? It's just odd choices at times. Another one, you can change the resolution of the built-in record feature by using SideQuest. Why don't they allow you to do that in the software? Why do I need to install a third-party piece of software in order to use this feature? It's senseless. It seems like there's a lot of little quirks that could be fixed, and I'm not sure why they're not at this stage. It's almost a year since this came out, and it seems like a lot of these have been around forever. Things resetting when you close the software. Every time I close the software, I have to re-enable the AirLink. Otherwise, I could just take the headset wherever I want and connect it, but no, I've got to go back up to my computer and turn on AirLink every time. And I realize that's probably going to go away once it's out of beta, but why even do that? I don't understand. Lastly, there's the comfort factor. The headset out of the box is comfortable, but not great. The fabric strap, it's easy to adjust, but it gets a little uncomfortable over time. I've actually ordered the Elite strap with the battery, because I've heard that the extra weight actually helps balance it a little bit better. One thing I will say is this works with people with smaller heads. For example, my daughter, she's only 4. I realize she shouldn't be playing VR, but she sees me and she wants to see what I'm looking at. The Vive does not fit her. Even at the smallest setting, I could not get it on her head. But this will tighten up and will fit her. So that's one benefit. If you've got someone with a smaller head, or you've got a young child that wants to test this out, it fits them much better than the Vive. Yeah, so I guess to sum up my thoughts, the graphics are great, even in AirLink. It's a big step up from my old Vive headset. How this compares to the Vive Pro 2, I'm eager to find out. I haven't seen much in the way of reviews of the Vive Pro 2 when using wireless and how it compares to the other headsets. I'd be very curious about that. I'm pleased with the built-in speakers and microphone. They're quite adequate for my use. The controllers are a personal preference, but I feel like they're very comparable to the Index controllers and better than the Vive ones. The setup and built-in software is all very easy to use, and you can jump right into VR, though some of the more advanced features do require a bit more effort to completely utilize. Overall, I feel like this headset, for a starting price of $299, is an incredible value. You get a standalone headset that works wirelessly and is comparable to much more expensive products. Now keep in mind that part of this price is being subsidized by Facebook. They're not being altruistic. They want to sell you things, and they want to take your data. So I can completely understand if you're not comfortable with that. Taking that out of the equation, I think this is the best deal on the market. It may not be absolutely the best headset, but for the price, you're getting a great headset. You could probably buy a Vive Pro 2, index controllers, Vive wireless adapter, and still only get a marginally better experience when spending 10 times as much money. So I think this is a great headset for the price, and if you're looking for a first headset, or you're looking to upgrade a first generation headset like a Vive or an original Rift, this is a good option for you. So if you've got any thoughts on this, please leave a comment below. If you've been using the Vive Pro 2 with wireless, I'd love to hear how the experience is going, and if you've got Quest 2 to compare it against, I would love to see that also. And if you like this video, what do you think about subscribing? I would definitely appreciate it. So thanks again for watching, and you have a great day.